To those celebrating around the world, we wish you a very Merry Christmas from everybody at the Premier League. And as is tradition, with Boxing Day being one of the most anticipated days in the footballing calendar, despite the uncertainty, you will be able to enjoy Premier League matches over the next 8 hours. Albeit, as it stands, with 3 fixtures postponed due to COVID outbreaks and injuries, we have a 4-game goal rush with our main match at the Etihad as the league leaders Manchester City take on Leicester as the champions look to make it 9 league wins in a row. Big games in the battle for 4th place as well. We'll see Arsenal, West Ham and Spurs kick off in just under an hour. Spurs taking on Crystal Palace, who will be without their manager Patrick Vieira, who's isolating after testing positive for COVID. Steven Gerrard will miss Aston Villa's game against Chelsea for the same reason before we end the day at the Amex for Brighton against Brentford. But it's Pep Guardiola's Manchester City who lead the way. That consistent run has them topping the table. He's made a couple of changes today at the Etihad. He is able to recall İlkay Gündoğan and Fernandinho. They are both back in the starting lineup. Foden and Grealish are still on the bench. Brendan Rodgers' Leicester have to face City today and then Liverpool in 2 days' time. And he has freshened it up today with 6 Leicester changes. Jamie Vardy once again is a substitute. There's no Patson Daka in the squad, so the starts for Iheanacho. And Jose Perez starts a Premier League game for the first time since August. So City for the 3rd time, top at Christmas. The previous 2 occasions they've gone on to be champions, and they have an opportunity with Liverpool not playing today to go 6 clear of Jurgen Klopp's side, and of course Chelsea later go to Villa. Arsenal, who were 15th in the Premier League 12 months ago, start Boxing Day in 4th place, 4 clear of West Ham, who are also playing. Manchester United, of course, play tomorrow at Newcastle. Can Norwich, from bottom, go to survival? They're level on points with Newcastle. We'll watch them, of course, against Arsenal today. Burnley again have had their game called off. They're 2 points behind Watford, Burnley, but already have a game in hand on them and 3 in hand on Leeds United. Welcome along then. 8 hours of Match Day Live for your Boxing Day Premier League football feast today. And it is a Merry Christmas to Michael Owen, to Glenn Hoddle and to Tim Sherwood. And we begin the festive period, which is always a big part of the calendar and can be a hugely pivotal one as well, Michael. Yeah, it definitely is. The games come thick and fast, of course. We've got the added dimension this time round of a few games being called off here and there. So there's going to be games in hand as well. But in general, you get to see who's going to be chasing the run-in, let's say, towards the end of the season. These games are important. It's important to have as many players fit as possible. There's a lot of rotation involved at this time of the year. But once you come out of it and once you get to up to mid-January, then the run-in starts. And in the meantime, we'll see who's going to drop away and who's going to, stand the pace. From a managerial point of view, just mentioned there, Brendan Rodgers, 6 changes again today. Is it difficult to get the freshness and the balance?
It is. I think that's the most important through this Christmas and New Year when you've got these back-to-back games. Training goes out the window. It's rehab and it's looking at players who look tired. You know, your fitness coaches, they'll tell you these things. But in the end, the manager has to sort of sniff it and look at players. And today he's going to go to City with a defensive midfield in there, or pack the midfield against City. He knows what he wants. So I think he's looking at the team that he really wanted, maybe with Vardy up his sleeve, possibly coming on late in the game. I think that'll be where he, and put it this way, I think if Vardy started, I think he'd be having to come off because he's going to be up there on his own. I can see him using Vardy with 20 minutes to go. I think he's picking a team. So the 6 changes for me is tactical, or really more than who's got COVID or not COVID or fitness-wise. I think he wants to finish with a certain team and still be in the game against this City team.
Did this festive period differ when you were playing compared to when you were managing and you had to think about everyone else and all the other elements going in?
Yeah, but I don't know what Glenn was like, but I never used to like getting rotated. I always thought I was being dropped, and the manager was using the excuse to rotate me, and I didn't. I wanted to play. Do you want to play every game? I mean, So I put myself back in their minds. I know it's difficult at Man City, or easy for Pep because he's got so many world-class players, and he's got that in-house competition, isn't he? Everyone fighting for their positions. Like you say, nothing can be won now, but you're jockeying positions. You can lose the league in January when these games come thick and fast. I said, and what it does is when the trophies get lifted at the end of the season, you want to be part of that. So it's an opportunity to put yourself in his eye and to perform. That's why the likes of Foden and Grealish are a little bit foolish by stepping out of line. You don't do that with this manager, especially when you've got a whole dressing room full of world-class players. But I'm sure they'll work their way back in. They're going to need to if they want to play in the big games come the end of the season. But absolutely can't win it now, but certainly you can be out of it.
3 of the top 4 we're going to watch throughout the days. Let's concentrate on Chelsea and City first of all. Chelsea, talking of losing positions, they've had their bumps in the road recently. In fact, if they don't win today, it's the first time under Thomas Tuchel they would have lost 3 consecutive Premier League games. In these games coming up, where are they at for margin for error in terms of how good City are and Liverpool are?
They can't slip up. They really can't. It wasn't so long ago we were looking at Chelsea at the top of the league and thinking, wow, they look very consistent, hardly conceding any goals, real depth to their squad, new manager come in and looking like he's got all the answers. And then all of a sudden, a few games and a few bad results, and all of a sudden they're looking up at the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City, and it puts them in a vulnerable position now, whereby if they go and continue this indifferent run, and this game is a very tough one today, away at Aston Villa. If they continue that, then they're going to be cut adrift, really. The quality above them is such that they just can't, give a 6 or 7 point gap to those types of teams. And I know they've still got to go and play those teams, but it's going to be very difficult to make any ground on them. So they can't afford any more slip-ups. They've had a few, they can't afford any more.
Just to put Michael's comments into context, in the last 8 games, City have 11 more points than Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea have hit the buffers, there's no doubt about it. The one thing about Chelsea this year, when you watch them play, they fancied themselves. Even if they played poorly, they thought they could win 1-0 at the time. Now they've got some self-doubts. And when that starts coming, you look at the goalkeeper, for instance, as an example, Mendy. He looks a bag of nerves. He made a few mistakes against West Ham. And since then, he doesn't look the same goalkeeper. And I think that's gone right through the team. So when you're going down that tunnel thinking, even if we don't play well today, we're going to win. Now they're going down that tunnel thinking, I'm not sure about today. And as Michael says, Villa's away is going to be a tough game.
Do you think Thomas Tuchel, he was the one, certainly of the top 3, who started the rotation a little bit early? Bringing players back in who you thought never had a future at the club, all of a sudden giving them game time. And then they're being forced to make changes now because of COVID. The players are getting infected at different clubs at different rates. I think he'll regret that now. I think it's because he's new to this league. He looked at it and thought, do you know what? It's going to be a really difficult period. It is on paper, but from my eyes, and look at what Pep does now. I think, yes, he's got the players to rotate, but I think Pep plays his best side, gets the points on the board, gets the lead, and then see how they end when they come out of the fridge. I mean, he calls it the fridge, Pep, doesn't he? We go to the fridge in January, see when we come out of the fridge and see where we are, and they're in a very healthy position.
Well stocked, that's for sure. We'll watch Chelsea at Villa later, but let's remind you of the Manchester City team for our feature game of ᴠᴏ宜at home to Leicester. It's only a couple of changes from last time out, as I say. They're both in midfield, Fernandinho and Gundogan alongside De Bruyne. Still no Kyle Walker because of illness. And as Tim alluded to, Foden and Grealish are still substitutes. Mahrez, of course, up against his former club. So 9 remain from the last one. And you just touched on it. Foden and Grealish still not back in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to learn from their mistakes. You would think the penny would drop, It's different if you're Jack Grealish and you're at Aston Villa and you're the make the difference player. But Aston Villa, yes, you're still a good player, but you're one of many. So I think he needs to toe the line, and make sure he's behaved impeccably. And Phil Foden, who I think is a wonderful player, I think he needs to not get led. I think they need to concentrate and marry the game. And at the moment, I think they're young boys and their heads get turned, but you can't do that with Pep Guardiola. Unfortunately, when he's got world-class players like that, he just pull you to the side and leave you out.
Leicester, 6 changes. No Daka at all in the squad. Vardy, who got a hat-trick at the Etihad in a win last season, who did feel his hamstring towards the end, didn't take a penalty in the League Cup quarter-final at Anfield in the week, is only a substitute. James Maddison has 3 in his last 6, so Iheanacho starts for the first time since October in the league against his former club. Jose Perez for the first time since August, and That's what you're talking about there, Glenn, the packing of the midfield and leaving Iheanacho up there.
Yeah, I think Maddison would drop in defensively, as we see every team do against City. It's interesting to see where Iheanacho plays, because I keep saying if I had a centre forward against City, I'd put him in some stranger positions than all the teams do. Teams that play City have got to come up and ask them a few questions. And I don't think they do. I think everyone does the same thing. They pack that midfield. The centre forward has to come right too deep for me. You know, you can't do anything about City when they're going down the right or the left wing and building these patterns of play. I'd send him out on a wide berth so that when we do actually win it, we can turn them and hit them on the break. And I don't see a teams doing that. I'm wondering whether Brendan does that today against City. What chance Leicester today, as they did in this fixture last season?
Well, exactly, and they've not got a bad record overall. I mean, in this fixture, there's been a lot of away victories over the last few years, so I think that will give them a lot of encouragement. They didn't just beat them, they scored 5 against them as well. So, I mean, there's no question. You go to certain grounds, you've had success there before, it gives you confidence. It makes you feel, you know, quite relaxed about these places. Nothing worse than going to a place and getting beaten every single time. You can't see a result coming. So I think they'll definitely come with confidence. But, of course, City are in a great, you know, vein of form at the moment. And Leicester are a little bit indifferent this season. So it'll be tough. But those previous results will count for a little bit, I think, today.
OK, yes, it's interesting thoughts there about Raheem Sterling in front of goal. As I say, he is in the Premier League 100 club, which, of course, Michael is in. And he's done it pretty quickly for his age. But just to point out what a fantastic young player Michael Owen was. He holds the record for the youngest player in Premier League history to reach 100 Premier League goals. And as you can see, Raheem is over 4 years behind you.
Well, with the attitude that he used to have, that's quite understandable, isn't it? I mean, I'm watching that interview, really listening intently to what he says, and that he used to find nutmegging or throwing a step over like more important, more exciting than actually scoring a goal. But then against Southampton, it became an obsession. And I think goal scoring and goal scorers have got that obsession, and I had it really from a young age. That's all I wanted to do. Seriously, when I used to get the ball, you know, I bet you the gaffer, when he was about 5 years old, could just keep the ball up 100 times. I never ever practiced juggling the ball or beating play. I just wanted to hit the ball into my garage at home, just score. That's all I ever wanted to do. So it was an obsession for me. Really interesting that Raheem sort of had that obsession that's come to him only in the last few years, and now his numbers are starting to reflect that.
And is some of that coaching since he went to City, do you think?
A little bit of that. I think we were talking that we've said this before. All his goals are in that number 9 area. They're so close now into the goal. At Liverpool, we were saying we don't believe he was a great goal scorer at Liverpool.
Yeah.
He was trying a lot of shots from outside the box. He's not a clean striker of the ball. There's not many goals you see him hitting from 25 yards. The one against Southampton was a beautiful goal. But then now, I think that's where Pep's got him coming and arriving. He's on the move. He's always on the move, but it's always 6-7 yards out between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box. He's getting his goals in there. So his timing of his runs now are much, much better. He's astute in his movement now than when he first went to City, without a doubt. And the way they play, it suits that.
Yeah, I think Grealish has to learn from that. You know, to get the headlines is not a bad thing. You know, he's getting a lot of stick at the moment, Jack. It was a big price tag. You know, he scored 2 Premier League goals. I think he needs to add to his goal tally. It's not all about running the ball up the field and assisting like he did at Aston Villa. I think he needs to realise and look at Raheem Sterling. I think he has been developed there. Running without the ball. You know, he used to always stand still, get the ball to his feet and want to dribble it like Jack does now. But when you move without the ball, when you've got world-class players around you, the ball will find you in goal-scoring positions. He's a whip for the goalpost, one-touch finishes. You see, and then he's got the confidence to sit people down, little shimmies. He's always going to have that. But I think that instinct, that anticipation of where the ball's going to land, I think he's got it off to a tee now.
I think we always used to see him as a winger. Yeah. He was a winger. At Liverpool, and when he went to City, he was a wide man, wasn't he, really? That's how I see him.
Yeah.
And he still is for England, Glenn, to be fair. He still is for England.
For England, yeah. So when I visualise him, I see him now as not a winger.
No.
I see him as this false number 9, but he arrives in there as a number 9. That's where he's getting his goals. And you're right, Jack's got to think about it. I'm not so sure Jack Grealish enjoys his football as much as he did when he was at Villa.
Yeah.
I look at him because he was the main man and he had to beat people. I think that's what his real love is. And at City, he's got to do that quickly. If not, they're saying release it.
Yeah.
If you don't beat people, release it. And they're looking at passing it and wearing your team down and then opening something up. I don't think he enjoys himself as much individually.
Definitely a different role, isn't it?
At City as he did at Villa.
I think it's a really interesting point you make. I mean, where do all them boys play at City? They just play as forwards and they rotate and they balance off each other. So when it's like someone like Ḥil-Foden, who I think the England team should be built around, where is he going to play for England? You know, because where's Gareth seeing play? He plays anywhere. We don't have a position like that in the England team. I think that's where he's going to have a serious problem.
On the subject of a number 9 at Manchester City, Pep Guardiola speaking this week. Let's remind you what he said on that subject, which was quite enlightening, really, on the back of Aguero's departure. He'd say, I would say Sergio's not been replaced. We have not bought a striker. Sooner or later, this club has to do this. And one day, it is going to happen. So, Michael, that's what he said this week. We're talking about the success of the false 9 and ∞Raheem Sterling playing there, Jesus, Mahrez, Foden. What do you make of that? Long term, he needs somebody permanently there.
Yeah, I understand it. I think what we've got to all recognise and realise is that Manchester City aren't your average team. They're just not a normal team. There's only 2 or 3 strikers probably in the world, realistically, that Manchester City can get. So it's no secret that they went for Harry Kane over the summer, and when they couldn't get him, then there was probably nobody else available. Haaland is another player that will get linked to him. Lewandowski has got the ability, Mbappe, but everybody thinks he's going to Real Madrid. There's only a certain set number of people that are good enough to play for Manchester City. So they will keep their powder dry. They won't waste 30, 40 million on a substandard centre forward. When they strike, they will strike big, and they'll do it properly.
Why do you think he's felt the need to say that?
Well, I think
now?
for me, the hidden words behind that is for Europe, not for the domestic league. I think the owners want to win the Champions League. That's why they got involved. They want to put City on the world map. And I think he's thinking, to win it, I need a number 9 like Haaland or Lewandowski to actually go into Europe and win this trophy. I think they've still got a great chance without it, to be honest, this year. But I think that's the hidden words that I'm looking at now.
Well, who does play over number 9 now? I mean, Lewandowski, yeah, but in England, I mean, the top 3 teams, I mean, Lukaku don't play at Chelsea. I mean, he never scored in 7 games before he got his injury and the COVID problems what he's had. The top 3 find a way. They all rotate, they all balance off, there's 3. So for that number 9, I think they're a dying breed. I think you've got more value for someone like Son, you know, around certainly in the Premier League. Son can go and play for anyone in the top 3. Harry Kane is a number 9. He's a number 9. He comes off short now. We've seen him coming off deep, but they want to get play into the game. I mean, number 9 now, where Michael on the shoulder of, you see it, yeah, but then they go and get the ball, then they drift wide. I mean, they're just rotating constantly in the top teams. They find a way to share the goals around their team. And I think Pep's the best at it. I mean, Gundogan, when he steps up, I mean, De Bruyne, there's no end. I mean, he keeps saying where the goals are all coming from. It's not just one person. I think Lewandowski's flying the flag for the big number 9 at the moment.
Do we think, though, that I watch them now, I think if they had a Haaland or a Lewandowski, they can cross the ball then. They can add to their dimension of their play. At the moment, you never really see. I mean, Jack got a header the other day because it was a quality ball, but that's not the way. If they get to the byline or they looked across, it's along the floor, it's across the back of the defender. Now, if they go and get someone like that, they can put crosses in. So perhaps he wants that sort of added dimension to their play.
Yeah.
It's all about rotation, nobody playing up there, coming short passes. And I think he's looking at that thinking, yeah, actually...
When I go and play against them, though, Glenn, if I'm Vestergaard today, I want to be marking Haaland. I want to be marking Harry Kane. It's horrible when you've got no one to mark, and when you do go in, someone makes a run in behind where you're leaving the hole. You know, sometimes centre defenders in the Premier League, they want to be stood up against, so they know their job, but they rotate and they move so well. I mean, it's fantastic.
It's quite ironic, though, isn't it, that Pep Guardiola was probably the first manager to start doing this. Like at Barcelona, he never had a strike. He got rid of Ibrahimovic, he got rid of all these players, and then he just had these. It felt like a dozen midfielders all like running around.
He did have a Messi.
He did exactly, but even Messi didn't play up there at the time, did he?
Right.
So he's got Xavi and Busquets and you know,
David
Messi and all these players. David Villa. He had all these players, and we played against him a couple of times. You just couldn't pick them up. So he never had a centre forward. And that's why I'm sort of read the comment, and I also think to myself, well, you've had some big strikers in your time, and you've got rid of them. He says Aguero, he hardly played Aguero at the end. It was a known sort of semi-falling out with them. And he says that we're not replacing them, but he's not got a great history of playing number 9s and consistently playing number 9s, yet he's saying we're going to need a number 9 eventually. So it's a strange one. It's strange that it's come out now, but I think most people agree that if he got a top one, then Manchester City would almost be unbeatable.
Well, that's the only time in Pep Guardiola's managerial career any of his teams have conceded 5 in a league game. Jamie Vardy has 2 career hat-tricks against Manchester City, but he is only a substitute today. Tight hamstring, played the whole game of the League Cup quarter-final against Liverpool in the week, so he is on the bench. 6 changes from Brendan Rodgers today. Amongst those headlines, Perez starts for the first time in a league game since August. ᴰᴏဣြᴛ is up front against his former club. Maddison has 3 in 6. Just 2 alterations as far as Pep Guardiola is concerned. They're both in midfield. Fernandinho, the captain, is back. So too is Gundogan. And crucially, on the bench still, Phil Foden and Jack Grealish. Managerial thoughts then ahead of this one, beginning with the City boss, Pep Guardiola.
At the start of the busy Christmas period, is the incentive for you that you could open up quite a big lead at the start of 2022 at the top of the table?
Well, we are at the top of the table now, but today finished the first leg, so still 19 with this game, 39 games to play. So it's another game. So lovely for the Christmas time to play this period because it's special for this country. It's good to play these games, and hopefully you can do well.
Gundogan and Fernandinho coming into your team today. Can you tell us the thinking behind that, please?
Because they are in a squad, they are Manchester City players and they can play, not a problem at all. And we have some problems for injuries, for COVID, and that's why they play.
Are you able to tell us the injuries and the COVID?
No, because I'm not allowed. About the COVID, some players I don't want to tell them, so I'm sorry. But some of them injured, some of them unfortunately they got it, like backroom staff. We are the same. We are 14 players for the first team. That's all. So the rest is for the academy, and because the situation that we have for injured and positives.
How worried are you then for the next few days?
You know, I'm more than a match. I'm a human being. I'm worried about all around the world. It still is there, the virus, the new variant. So and you see how many games in the championship, postponed. There are maybe played 2 games in championship this season. League One the same. Here, this week apparently less games suspended, but that last fixture, 5-6 games could not be played. So it's there. The virus is here, and it's day by day. We arrive in the training session and said, how many players we have, how many backroom staff is okay, and move on, move forward. Mask and social distance, and wait the instructor for the Premier League, and that's all.
Brendan, you've got to shuffle your team yet again. Can you tell us as much as you can how much is a COVID issue and how much is down to injuries?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really. We've obviously got the number of the guys out for a few weeks, unfortunately, especially our defenders. So yeah, and Patson Daka will be out for up to 3 weeks as well. So yeah, it's just the way it is. We just got to get on with the players that's available and take on the challenge today.
Are you happy that you're playing today?
Yeah, we always want to play. I think it's just been unfortunate circumstance for a lot of clubs. It's a big challenge for us, obviously having these 2 games in 3 days. And then obviously the context of it, we Man City not having a midweek game, being fresh. So, but yeah, listen, it's a challenge we embrace. We can go and play a football, play with our quality, and of course you come to you're going to have to defend and you're going to have to suffer a bit. So, but no, we put out a team to look to see if we get the result.
Can anybody out there